Hello, everyone. Is this thing on? Can you hear me? Let me know in the comments if you can hear me, if everything's working okay. There's about 20 of you in here. We'll make sure everything is working good, and then we'll start the live stream. Everything working good? Let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. Sounds good? Everybody's saying sounds good? Perfect. All right, so I would like to thank everyone for being here. This is the first live stream for 2020. I sat here for about 10 minutes looking at what was wrong with the screen before I went live, and I realized I had 2019 as the date. So it's actually 2020. So, we're going to do that for a couple weeks. But I want to thank Lenovo, of course. This live stream is being streamed using the PC that they sent over for me to do live streaming with. So if you haven't checked out that video, make sure you do that. They're not paying me, but like I said, they did give me the machine, so it's going to help definitely bring the quality of the live streams up. So I hope everybody had a happy holiday season, no matter what you're celebrating. I hope everything went well and that everything is good. And we're going to talk about a few things today. I've had a lot of questions about what kind of gear I use for the videos. We've had, of course, all kinds of networking and voice over IP questions. We have some software that I want to show you. So what I'd like to do real quick is in the chat, if you've got any questions, let's go ahead and open up for just a couple questions. And then we'll look at a couple of these items that I wanted to talk about, and then we'll actually open it up for live call-ins. So how's everybody doing? Anybody got any questions right off the bat? Thanks everybody for joining us. I know this is a little later than we usually go live. I was hoping we'd be able to catch a little bit of a larger crowd. Doesn't look like anybody's got any questions coming in yet. So what we're going to do is I am going to attempt to switch scenes. I don't have my Stream Deck set up yet, so I'm still switching back and forth with the mouse. So you will just have to bear with me for just a second here. We'll see if this works. And I think that it worked. So you should see web browser now here with a couple of tabs. Yep. Perfect. All right. So yeah, Scott, I'm going to display a phone number here in a little bit. I'm testing several voice over IP providers, and we had a Santa Claus line. If you follow me on social media and things like that, I posted the phone number for that. I'll post the phone number. It will actually ring directly to the phone that's hooked up to the streaming studio here. So, hey, Bob. And I want to thank Bob. Bob is here. Bob is my buddy in Canada that has excellent tasting coffee and also got me hooked up with Lenovo. So I do appreciate that. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is I had somebody send me an email earlier today. Actually, they started out by getting a hold of me on Instagram. And this person is a manager for a coffee shop. And someone set up a Unify controller for them, and they have a captive portal and things like that, but they don't have the administrative username and password for the Unify controller. And it's a Windows-based Unify controller. So I was able to get all that through the Instagram direct messaging, which I absolutely love it that everybody follows me on social media. I will tell you, if you do want to contact me, though, the best way to get a hold of me is to email me or fill out the contact form on my website. Or if you can call and catch me in the office or leave a message, whatever. But because direct messaging sometimes on social media is very cumbersome. So anyway, we get to this point in the conversation, and we find out that the Unify controller is on Windows. And so instead of trying to download the command line for MongoDB and walk through it that way, there's actually this really nifty piece of software, and you can download just this Robo 3T. And you can download this. This is actually a graphical interface for MongoDB, and you can download this for Windows, and then you can run the commands that you need to know, but you can do it in a graphical setting instead of from the command line. So I thought this was pretty cool. I found this when I was trying to figure out how I can make this easier for people that maybe aren't as well versed at the command line as I am. And so I stumbled across this piece of software and recommended it. And I've got it installed on my laptop, and it works great. So I will leave a link to this real quick in the chat, so that if you want to check it out, you can do that. It's robomongo.org. So that link should now be in the chat. So let's see here. Brad LaRose says, I would like to know about Ubiquiti. I keep hearing about them. Ring blacklisted and unable to use them for government grants. Brad, could you expand on that a little bit? I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about there. Maybe we'll get into that. So definitely, if you want to work with your MongoDB databases and you don't want to do everything from the command line, you can download this Robo 3T only. And here's a few of the screen captures here. And it is cross-platform. So it is Windows, Mac OS, and Linux based. And you can see they got more than 5,500 stars on GitHub. It's the number 34 repository on GitHub. So give it some love. If you want to connect to that MongoDB and you don't want to use the command line, definitely check Robo 3T out. I recommend at least downloading and installing it and see what it's all about. Also, if you've been around for a little while, you will know that, or you'll remember anyway, that we started a list of SIP providers. And a new SIP provider has come to my attention, and I didn't know they were getting into the game, and that is actually Amazon. So AWS now has Amazon Chime. Now, Chime itself can be, I believe, an entire communication service, but what I was actually interested in was what they call Chime, I believe it's Chime Connector. Let's look at the pricing here. Let's see, Voice Connector, Chime Voice Connector, right? So Chime Voice Connector is Amazon or the AWS entry into providing SIP service. And I was really interested in it because they are super, super competitive on price. Now, a rumor is that they will have 911. They don't have 911 service right now. A rumor is 911 service is coming, but look at these rates. So inbound calling, 0.002216 cents a minute. Outbound calling, and we'll scroll down to the United States. I mean, it's super, super competitive. And the other thing, and I went to sign up for this last night to try it out. And unfortunately, just because, well, actually, very fortunately, my credit card company kind of like held it up for a second because there are several small charges, I guess, that happen with this. And so I need to call my credit card company, let them know I was actually trying to authorize paying for AWS. This will be the first time I've ever paid for anything with AWS personally. Because I do want to try the service and give it a fair shake and see what the quality is and how easy it is to configure it with our GrandStream UCMs and any other voice systems that we may be using. So they are super competitive, and apparently there is no limit on the amount of call paths that we can have. So I'm assuming we can start it up and then the meter just goes. So I definitely am going to try this out, and we'll let you know. There'll probably be a setup video, how to connect this over to UCM. Like I said, I got to call the credit card company, let them know that somebody's not trying to scam me, that it is me making those AWS charges. And with my credit card that I use, I've never charged anything from AWS. So it makes sense from that standpoint too, that they would block those charges. We tried to eat at Chipotle today, and we ordered. My wife started the order from her the app on her phone, and our credit card company kicked that charge out as well. So we actually had to go stand in line, and I mean, it wasn't a big deal, but we thought, oh, we can take our time. We won't be standing in line, taking up, people standing in line, they tend to get antsy. They get, frustrated when, people don't know exactly what they want. And this was the first time we'd ever eaten at Chipotle together. My wife has had it when somebody brought it to her workplace. I had it one time, and it was a long time, I don't know, 3 years ago, something like that. So wasn't familiar with the menu. So we thought, you know what, we'll just use the app. It's super convenient. We'll place the order. We'll go in, we'll grab it, we'll sit down and eat. But credit card company thankfully did block that, because we've never charged anything to Chipotle before. So that was fantastic. All right, so let's take a look at the chat and see what's going on here. Yeah, several of us in Illinois are here today. Thanks for being here, everybody. And hey, James is here. So James, everybody say hi to James Middendorf. He is in the chat right now. James actually does some contracting for me. He has another job as well, but he does subcontracting for me in GrandStream setup and configuration. But he is also, if you contact us for free PBX, he is my free PBX guy. So, Chipotle was pretty good. It was pretty good. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce our carb intake. If you've been with me for a while, since the beginning of the channel, you'll know that at one point I was up to 265 pounds. I was at a company function. I split my pants, and right now I'm at like 208, and I need to get back down below that 200. So we're not like making resolutions or anything like that. And we've actually been working on this since like late October, just making small changes in the way that we eat, cutting out a lot of bread, pasta, things that you love, but Chipotle was definitely good. Let's see. Cajoling Technology says there's a soft fraud limit of 1 call per second, but can be increased free of charge, no charge for call paths. So, yeah, we'll have all of that information in the Amazon Chime video once I get that set up and going. So, Jerry Fowler says he's watching from Rock Island, Illinois. Hello, Rock Island, Illinois. My aunt and uncle actually live in Milan, and we frequent the zoo up there. So, up in Coal Valley. All right, so the next question, and I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher your name. Is it Irfan or Irfan? I'm very sorry about that. But this person asks, typically, how large are your deployments? I've been a long-time subscriber, but have not seen much about OSPF, gateway redundancy, spanning tree, link aggregation, AWS, Azure, VMware, etc. And on the channel, do you plan to release such content, or is the channel target audience different? So you will notice that occasionally I will do some lighter videos. So we did a video the other night talking about testing your emergency services, and I actually learned a lot from the comments in that video. I've been doing voice in some capacity for nearly 20 years, and if there's a non-emergency number that I can call to test that, here, I don't know specifically what that is. So that is actually on my list of things to find out this week, so that we don't have to call 911. And maybe they're going to tell us they don't have that capacity. I just don't know. It's, I will find out when I call. So as far as the target audience, but you'll notice actually, if you go back and you look, I actually did do an edge router, VRRP video. So this year, my plan is to release a lot more technical, in-depth videos and to do a lot more collaboration. 2020 is going to be the year of collaboration for sure. So it's going to span a lot of different technologies and things like that. So just, strap in and we'll see what happens. Matt Rune asks, or says he's calling from Orlando. Hey, Matt. I'd take Orlando weather at the moment. What do you think is the best router or service for parental controls on a network, primarily Windows, Android, and Chromebook devices? Thanks. So I am going to tell you that if you haven't checked out the Synology series of routers, the RTC 2600 AC, if you're just doing this for your home and you want to do that content filtering, that's what I run. For content filtering, my actual cell phone is charging in another room right now, but my kids, they hate it because it's got the time control set up, and anytime Synology updates that software, you get the newest updates. Their whatever blacklist they're using continue to get updated. We force safe search across the different platforms, and for the price, you really can't beat it. Now, in a larger organization, I'm going to use probably DNS filtering or a combination of different hardware devices. But at home, I personally use that RTC 2600 AC, and I love it. I've got some cleanup that I want to do, kind of where everything comes in, and then I'll give a little bit of a tour of how that stuff is set up. Right now, it's kind of like sitting on a counter. It's in my wife's way because she's trying to do her thing, and I've got a rack there. I just need to take the time to actually clean it up. All right, Kamal says, hi, Willie. Thanks for the live and all your help on the web. I have a question. If I can have line appearance with GrandStream 6202 with SIP trunk channels, can you explain that a little bit more, what you're wanting to do with the line appearance? Are you wanting like a shared line appearance? Is that what you're looking for? And the thing is, when you look at a lot of the PBXs, the IP PBXs, they bring some ideas with them from older systems. But sometimes the things that we expect out of those older, digital systems, they don't translate into the newer systems. So sometimes we have to create workarounds, or we just help people, use the devices differently than they're used to. Believe it or not, does anybody know, and put it in the comments if you do, there used to be a phone, well, they're still there. They're called Executone. I don't know if anybody has heard of Executone, but there are still Executone systems in the Peoria area that are running, and I'll bet you those systems are 30 years old, 35 years old or older. And I know that there was one employee. The Executone building is still there. In fact, I'm going to make a point to drive by it and take a picture, and I'll post it on all of my social media. But the last time I knew, which was about 7-8 years ago, Executone had one employee in Peoria, and I mean, he like literally just drove around and replaced fuses in these systems because that's all that was going bad, and they're like an old mechanical switched system. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, James says that he used to work on Executone. And Bob, yes, it is a ringing endorsement. When your kids hate something, especially my kids, we give them technology and then they break it or try to figure out how to get around it. And here's a little pro tip for you. If you've got your kids on lockdown at home, you may want to check with their school and see how their school is doing content filtering. Because is the school filtering email? I don't know. So maybe there's things coming in through kids' email. So there's all kinds of avenues. Kids are smart. So if you want to, and kids are curious, and some kids are really smart, really intelligent, and some kids have super high critical thinking. I've got a kid that I would put him up against just about anybody as far as critical thinking goes. But kids are curious. Kids don't. As adults, we've drawn ourselves into these boxes and with the rules and everything. And a lot of times kids don't have that. So kids will touch, hardware, software in places that we are subconsciously avoiding. So if you want to see the weaknesses in something or how to use something, in a way that maybe you never thought of, then, give it to your kid and they'll show you. Let's see here. Kamal, I think what you want to do is you want to see line 1, 2, and 3 on the screen. Yeah, you can. James, off the top of your head, can you chime in? I'm trying to remember. I was actually today just working on a system, and I was actually working on a PRI and stuff, so I'm kind of in that mode, coming off of an AT&T PRI and some zero config things, and the customer is cutting over today. So I'd probably have to sit down in front of the PBX and take a look at it. Let's see. Scott says, I just recently set up an outdoor Unify mesh network using the pricier mesh devices. They're 627 feet apart, and the far one also has a Unify G4 camera connected. I'd hope to offer public Wi-Fi, but the throughput is terrible, so I have the public Wi-Fi turned off for now. Thinking about adding intermediate point. Any thoughts? So I do have a couple of thoughts on that. And so we talk about mesh all the time. And yeah, there are some YouTube videos out there where there's a guy, I think he might be in Florida, I can't remember his channel name, but he goes like down like this whole street, and he's got, the Ubiquiti mesh, and at the end of all of these hops, and he goes past, I think Ubiquiti recommends 3 or 4 hops, and he goes to 6 hops or something like that, and still manages to get like 200 megabits a second. Good luck. So I had a customer one time, actually a customer in Chicago, that got a hold of me and was like, I want to do this in this building. And this is, it's an old building from like the early 1900s. And so it's got these thick walls and it's all stone and everything. And I told him, I said, look, this is not going to work. You're going to want to wire these APs. And he got about halfway through, nothing would stay connected properly. And so he went back, and I believe he wired the APs. I haven't talked to him in a little while, but I don't usually, unless it's a temporary situation, use the mesh as mesh. I try to either use backhauls, different radios for backhauls and backhaul in, or I try to hardwire everything. So, and Scott, really, when you're getting into, did you say, where was it at? You didn't say what kind of, you didn't say what kind of area this was. So I'm actually working with somebody right now that has an RV park, and RV parks are challenging because you've got a bunch of Faraday cages out there. And if you're trying to get the most coverage, and you have people that have all different kinds of devices, I mean, it's a real challenge to do it correctly. I mean, you could throw up a bunch of APs and just be like, good luck. But I mean, what, you're spending the money. So actually what I'm having this person do now is actually do a site survey. And we're going to figure out what kind of radios we need to do the backhaul to do it correctly, what kind of coverage we're getting. In an RV park, you're going to need a lot more access points than you really think you would. And anything in high density, you're going to want to have a lot more access points than what you would think, because you're going to turn them down. You're going to turn the power output down. You're going to have more radios. You're going to do proper cell sizing and things like that. A lot of people get their hands caught in the cookie jar. They just buy, 6, 8 APs and they throw them up, and then it doesn't perform the way they want. And I've seen it across manufacturers. This is not just a Ubiquiti thing. I've had the complaint with Ubiquiti. I've had the complaint with Cambium. I've had the complaint with Grandstream. I've had this complaint across the board, and it's just because we're not taking the time to properly design and deploy our wireless network. So there's that's some things that really you got to look at. It's not something that, we can use some predictive modeling to do it, but like really to do it and do it well, you need to be boots on the ground. You need to be doing a survey and things like that. So, and if that's anything that you need some help with, you can definitely reach out to me. We can talk about that, because I do offer those basic design services. So, Reginald, you haven't really missed much yet. We've been talking about Amazon Chime, Robo 3T, but let's see here. So Scott says, I'm wondering if I should be using a different, more directional point-to-point for the connection. So point-to-point, point-to-multi-point, things like that. But then you're also going to have to watch out where you're at in the spectrum. If you're offering, if you've got 5G, you got to kind of watch out, because then you can start creating your own in-band interference. So there's a lot to it. I had a customer that's down in Atlanta get a hold of me about a project. It was a 500 plus acre college campus. Wanted to use Ubiquiti for they wanted Wi-Fi tip to stern across all 500 acres. And I said, hold the boat. Let's talk about this. And so I believe it's a different manufacturer at this point, but it takes a lot of RF engineering to do something like that and do it well. If you're going to spend the money on something like that, you don't want it to just kind of work. You want it to actually really work, or you're going to have more problems and spend more money in the long run if you don't scrap the entire project. Yeah, public park. Scott says, I was eventually hoping to spread Wi-Fi for the whole park, 96 acres. So I actually started a case study to do public Wi-Fi in a 126 acre park. And we were doing 2 different radios per pole. We were doing solar. So once I hit $75,000, which didn't even get a quarter of it, we stopped. We put the boots to it, because to do it correctly, to do it right, to make it sustainable so that it doesn't cost us more money long run, it just wasn't there. It was too expensive. So Scott, you've definitely got some challenges you're going to have to overcome, but it's nothing. If you're going to spend the money, it's nothing that good planning and proper deployment won't be able to take care of. So I love these questions. These are really good questions. And then whoever was asking the questions about the SLA, James is answering there in the chat about the SLA. So Cajoling Technologies asks, what's your take on channel width? I know higher width, faster, but more interference, but don't know how much more. So, all right, so now it's going to depend whether you're talking about 2.4 gigahertz or whether you're talking about 5 gigahertz. You are correct. So what happens is when you bond those channels, and we'll just use, let's start with 2.4 gigahertz. So in the 2.4 gigahertz, you have 3 non-overlapping channels in the United States, 1, 6, and 11. And those are 20 megahertz channels by default, right? So what happens then is if you go to a 40 megahertz channel on 2.4 gigahertz, what that does is now all channels are basically overlapping. You lost your 3 non-overlapping channels. So first of all, you're going to start creating tons of in-band interference for yourself. But what really happens when you combine those channels? You do get, I don't know if it's exactly double the throughput, but then you also lose the distance. So yes, you get more throughput, but you get less distance. Now with the 5 gigahertz, we've got channels, I think, that go all the way up to 160 megahertz channel width. I'm trying to remember that off the top of my head. But definitely with 5 gigahertz, we have more non-overlapping channels. So typically you'll see deployments at a 40 megahertz or an 80 megahertz. So, and it's all about proper planning. I've seen deployments where people want to mess with those widths, and they get the same amount of throughput on an 80 megahertz deployment as they do a 40 megahertz deployment. I mean, there's all kinds of things that go into it. How are you getting the data back? What's your ISP feed? Are you throttling clients? There's all kinds of things that go into that. Hope that answered your question. Drunken Slug asked, is Unify best for all deployments? No, there is probably not. As far as networking goes, there's probably multiple vendors that do different things really well. So just like right now with Unify, in my opinion, Synology does parental controls better than Unify. But with Synology, I don't get inter-VLAN routing. I told my handler over at Synology, I said, if you guys came out with a 1U appliance based on an Intel chipset, 64-bit, and you had 2 NICs and you used your router management software, you guys, if you had inter-VLAN routing, you would clean up. Like you could take over the SMB, the SOHO market as far as appliances go. So there's just a few things, and I don't know what direction they're heading. I don't have any more information than anyone else, but it's definitely you should look at the different manufacturers. It's just we're gonna do some videos. I was supposed to get a video out in November, and I didn't get to it because I ran out of time. So it is coming early this year where we're going to compare some of those throughputs on different access points. And so you're going to get to see some of this stuff. And I'm still trying to 100% figure it out. I had a board that had, the APs mounted on it. And I still think that that's going to be my scientific way to do it. I'm trying to control. I don't have a chamber, to block out all the interference and things like that. So I just have to make sure that I am as faithfully replicating the settings from one access point to another, when I switch those. So that is coming. That is going to be, it's going to be a heck of a video. So I am working on that. All right. So Scott says that he increased the channel width on his mesh to the max, and it seems to have solidified the connection a bit more. Yeah, HT80 is, you'll see that on the radio configuration. And Scott says, I do unify everything for now because of the newer cloud keys. And he never deployed the old cloud keys. Yeah, there's still a lot of old cloud keys out there. When I get into my Unify control panel, there's still a lot of them out there. Let's see. So Scott asked, since Google Cloud Print is leaving, what is a good replacement? I never really used Google Cloud Print. I saw that it was available, but with a little bit of testing, you might be able to use this. This is something that we've done. If you buy a newer HP printer, in fact, I don't even know how new that it has to be. By the way, printers are a huge soft spot in networks. If you're deploying network printers, make sure you're setting an administrator username and password on the interface. All right, so to kind of talk about that a little bit more, so I know on HP printers, they all come with like this service you can turn on, and they have like a default email address. And if you want to print documents while you're on the go, you can just email the document to this email address, and the printer's talking to HP, and it'll print your document, and it's amazing. And we've used it, and it's fantastic. Let's see here. Yeah, Synology should definitely get into the SMB/SMBE market. That if you've used one of their RTC routers, it is, and if they came out with switches, and even if they came out with a switch that did all the layer 3 routing, I will tell you, I am a fan of when a company can have a whole stack. A lot of times it's not realistic, but I would use a Synology stack if everything worked right. If their switch was garbage, I would use something different. But if you can get somebody that does it all, that's why I'm surprised that, and maybe they do at this point, but I'm surprised that Cambium doesn't have their own routers. So I mean, that's for them, that's like the missing piece of the puzzle, because their switches, which I've got one we're going to do a review on, their switches are pretty dang nice. So let's see, what else do we have going on here? Yeah, Reginald says, yeah, make sure you don't open the ports to the Wild West World Wide Web because Shodan will show a lot of printers online. Yeah, absolutely, Shodan. And there's a couple other websites too that log this kind of information, but you wouldn't believe the kinds of things that people leave open to the public internet. And if you follow me on Twitter, and I was kind of interjected into one of Tom Lawrence's tweets last week, he was talking about, somebody had made some sort of a comment about RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol, about it being open to the internet. My opinion, there is no excuse for that, because an Edge Router X costs $49. unless you're buying something off eBay, like a brand new router, you're going to be pretty hard pressed to find something with its features at that price. That being said, buy a $49 Edge Router X and put it in front of your network and set up a VPN. Don't just don't open RDP to the outside world. There are several cases. First of all, people aren't running two-factor authentication. And even if it was, I still probably wouldn't open RDP directly up. But there are pieces of malware out there, ransomware, that will brute force RDP. And then the one NAS that is particularly susceptible is QNAP, right? So there's a piece of ransomware out there. It finds RDP, brute forces it, uses weakness in RDP, and then connects to the QNAP and encrypts with ransomware the entire QNAP. So you've got several problems. You've got people not using proper firewalling, proper layered security techniques, people not updating the software on their QNAPs, because QNAP put a warning out about this, and had people updated the operating system of their QNAP, the people that got ransomed could have avoided that. So there's something else. Let me go over to my other. There's a piece of software, and I can't remember. Let's see. I'll find it. I've got another like VPN type thing to talk about. But for $49, put an Edge Router X in, man. And that's interesting. So Bob says that he's starting to see Shodan come up on firewall block lists, security through obscurity. Yeah, so what Shodan needs to do is just start, using with Cisco routers, you can set up, and I'm sure you can with Juniper and some of the higher end stuff, but what you can do is you can have different public IPs. And so if you have different providers coming in, you could actually roll your NAT across different WAN IPs. So if you had like big blocks of IPs, they'd never know where you're coming from unless they block like entire parts of the internet. So that would definitely be interesting. Drunken Slug says, Docker on my Synology NAS is amazing, even though the hardware specs are not that impressive. Yeah, Synology makes a slam dunk product. Slam dunk. One thing that I wish that, and I've been pushing for it for years, just making comments, but a lot of firewalls or the lower end stuff cannot create firewall rules based on fully qualified domain name. And we need to be able to do that, because I don't want to buy static IPs all the time. If I've got a small office, why should I pay $20 a month? I'll spend a little bit more on the router. I'll figure out what that ROI is, and I'll spend a little bit more on a router that can create rules based on, or a firewall that can create rules based on fully qualified domain name. So, paying Comcast for a static IP when you don't have to, I mean, they are making a pretty good chunk of money off those static IPs. And I'm not against them making money, but you have to look out for you. You have to look out for your client as well. So Scott says, yeah, got hacked on RDP on an old server, and he's all VPNs now. Yes, all VPNs. Hey, Ryan, I'm glad you're here today. Let's see. No, so I still don't have monetization back on my channel. I have appealed 7 times. I still don't have it. I'm looking at, and for those of you that follow me on social media, you'll know that I did apply to be a content creator on Floatplane, which is the Linus Tech Tips. I don't know that it's specifically a YouTube competitor, but it's going to be their video platform. They did deny it, but I totally get it. I'm not even at 50,000 subscribers yet. I don't have monetization. There's a lot of unknowns about my channel. So I think Tom may have applied. I don't know if he's been accepted or not, but I did post my rejection letter. It took them less than a day to reject me. So they did turn that rejection around pretty fast. When I get to 100,000 subscribers, I'll probably ask YouTube again. So we'll see. I don't know if there's some sort of possibility that I could like sell my channel or move my channel to like my wife is starting her channel. Like, can I like sell her my channel? I don't know. There's a lot of questions that I don't know the answer to. And then I've been watching a couple other content creators that have been talking about a couple other platforms, but YouTube is my first love, and I'm hoping that once I hit 100,000 subscribers that they will reconsider and turn that monetization back on. All right, let's see here. Zach, so what happened was back in 2016, I created a video on how to specifically block ads using an edge router, and I published that video. And the next morning I was on my way to vacation and got an email from YouTube that my entire channel had been demonetized. So that's kind of what happened. And I deleted the video and appealed. And apparently once you're demonetized, it is very difficult to reverse that. So, and I definitely don't want to do anything to actually cause me to lose my channel. Because I'm in, such a narrow niche, it has taken us a little while to get here. Now, 2019 was an awesome year all the way around. But you'll notice that in 2019, I did not get the amount of videos out that I did previously, and I'm going to remedy that in 2020. And there's a new podcast coming. I've started lining guests up for that. I hope to start recording by the end of the month. I've got names on the whiteboard. I want to have at least 26 episodes this year. So it will be in a video format and released in an audio format. And if you remember in 18, Tim and I started Geek Dives. Tim got busy. I got busy and we didn't stick with it. So this is kind of a reworking, and Tim will join us as a guest host. So it's going to be, I'm looking forward to a great 2020. Let's see here. Jordan's here. Oh, yeah, the ban hammer of Google. I definitely don't want to lose my channel. So I have not been pushing hard. I just figure that's what I'll do. I'll keep grinding away, build my subscriber count. And there are channels that, have millions of subscribers that don't have monetization, but I think they turned it off on their own. So Drunken Slug, I do have Patreon, and I do appreciate all the patrons that do subscribe to that. We've got a small but definitely awesome tribe going. Let's see here. Scott says, I need a separate channel for things that make the corporate overlords unhappy. Yeah, that, or maybe I just host those videos myself. That, I don't know. If I think a video is going to be, and as far as when I say controversial, technology, like how do you do X? Yeah, maybe I host that on just right on my website. But, we'll just have to, we'll have to see. I am going to, speaking of, so we did, let's see here. I know this is horrible because I am stuttering while we're on the live stream here, but I was trying to find, we don't have it public yet, but on williehow.com, we do have the partially reworked SIP truck matrix. Let me see if I've got it on this other. I'll have to have Tim go ahead and publish it, but. What else? Let's do this. Oh, let's talk about gear that I'm using. So for some of the videos that you've been seeing, I've actually been trying to record all of my video using this awesome Rode gear that I have. So this is the Rode pod mic. This is a new mic as of last year. It's got a built-in pop filter to take care of those plosives and things like that. And if you watched my testing 911 video, I think I've really got the audio dialed in there. And then I will take some pictures and post this on social media, but down here is the Rodecaster Pro. And it looks like Tim, let's see here. Yeah, Tim and I are talking about taxes. So, for my consulting, my fiscal year is also calendar year. So I've got to get all that stuff over to the accountant, and Tim is expecting a 1099 for some of the stuff. So not sure if Tim is watching this, but let me ask him what that link is. All right. So let's see. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. So back to the equipment. So I'm using the Rode equipment. By the way, I picked up this is the Rode Wireless Go, and I am absolutely loving this mic setup. So you can just clip this unit right here. This is the receiver, so this gets plugged into whatever you're recording the audio with. I like to go directly in camera on some of this stuff. And then this is the unit, like the actual mic, so you can see the mic there. But then you can also plug a lapel mic into this, and it's absolutely fantastic. So this, I bought this in, was it June or July of last year, and this is the Osmo Action, DJI Osmo Action, and they finally came out with the external audio adapter there. And then this is not a Rode mic, this is a Movo, but you can see it's got the dead cat on it, and this actually does really decent audio. But a lot of these close-up videos that you're seeing, so the last video was filmed with that. I also have, a Canon 50D that I use, and I've got all kinds. I'm always experimenting with my sound and the video and everything like that, because I want it to be, the best quality that I can. So looks like Tim just gave me the link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up williehowe.com/sip-pricing. And I don't think Tim knows he's live. He's not really live, but that we are that we're taking a look at this while he's typing to me in the chat. So, all right, let's hop back over here. And we are always, by the way, improving this GrandStream voice over IP product selector. Tim did a fantastic job. We're looking to roll this out for Synology and other networking gear too. But here we have, if you go to williehowe.com/sip-pricing, you will see that we've taken some of that information that came in, and we've started populating it here. I'm probably going to keep this in the Google spreadsheet that we have, and then as people send it, I'll let people update the Google spreadsheet, but then I will actually update this. So, and you can see where there's no E911, that these services do not currently offer 911, or that we could not find that information. Funny enough, we're talking about that. So we see flow route up here at the top. And if you've been doing telephony for a while, we used to use Intrado to do, I don't know if this is the one, Intrado Life Safety. So yeah, so we've used Intrado for years to do E911. And I think this is the same Intrado that bought FlowRoute. I believe FlowRoute got bought by Intrado. Maybe I dreamt that. Right? Let's see here. see. So yeah, last year. And maybe this is not the same company. I've never actually been to the Entrada website. Somebody else set that up years ago. I have a, like a key, like a two-factor authentication device that I have to use to log in and update DIDs with addresses. So I could have this totally backwards. But yeah, definitely Entrada right here. Yeah. So they're all the same. They're all the same now. So maybe Flow Routes E911 maybe the pricing will come down, or maybe they're going to keep it so separate that it's not. I don't know. This is pretty cool. The company actually owns West.com. Let's see what they do. West Corporation. West is now Entrado. And like I said, this could be a completely different Entrado. But I'm pretty sure it's right. If anybody knows, let me know in the comments. All right, so back to questions in the chat. Scott says, I'd love more information on solar options. So I have several solar controllers, and as soon as the weather turns, I am going to be doing some solar videos. I actually have the solar switch from Ubiquiti sitting right over there on the shelf, and I've got a couple of the other solar things, but I just have to get my panels and my batteries in, and then we are definitely going to be doing those videos. Hey, Donald from Jacksonville. Let's see here. Hey, from Athens, Georgia. Brad says, we just built a 32 terabyte video recorder using digital watchdog software and cameras. Absolutely love the software and cameras. So I have, I've heard of digital watchdog, but I have not used it. Lars, I want to learn how to splice fiber, but I currently do not. Most of the time we have someone else do the fiber splicing, or I use fiberstore.fs.com. And I actually, you know what? Let's bring that up. Let's take a look at fiber pricing on FS, Fiberstore. So what you can do with Fiberstore is you can actually get pre-made cables, pre-terminated multi-mode or multi-fiber cables. So you can come on to fiberstore.com, and they literally, you can save so much money doing this. And you can even put in your own shelf and get the connectors, for this if you don't want to connect this fiber directly to your equipment like this. Well, let's just say that we need some fiber. All right, so let's just say we're going to go with this OM4. Or you know what, we could do outdoor, because we have ordered outdoor with them as well. And I just had another customer who's an MSP that does work for a large spice company, and he just ordered everything from here too. Like I said, I would love to know how to do this, but is it something that I can justify spending the money on? I don't do it enough. And where I'm at, you got to worry about a lot of union issues. So sometimes it's just easier to pay somebody to do it, or order these pre-terminated fiber cables and just be done with it. But let's take a look. We will let's do this one. All right, so customized LC 2 fibers, indoor outdoor OS2 single mode. So this is going to be single mode fiber. And let's say we don't want to just pull one pair. So let's say we're going to put 6 fibers in there. That'll be 3 pairs. We're going to do an other length. And let's say that we know that it's a 600, let's say it's an 800 foot run for single mode. The thing shouldn't even break a sweat. We're going to customize. Connector A going to be, you can do the LC duplex or the LC simplex. Quick Google search will show you the difference between all of these and what these connectors are. So the LC is this little guy right here. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. So this is an LC connector. And what we're going to do is we're going to fan this out. So they'll be fanned, or you can get them staggered. And we'll put a pole eye. We'll put a pole eye on both ends. And we are going to ship this to 61616. So $230. So what is our, let's see. So we've got $478.69 for the pre-terminated 6-strand single mode that has the LC. So the duplex connector is where there's two together. So you could go with the simplex connectors. So you can choose then whatever fiber strands you want to work together. And so we're $478.69 plus the $230 shipping. So somebody do some math for me, please. What's $230 plus $479? So whatever that is, then that's cheaper than probably having someone come on site and do all the work to put those connectors on site. So it's another option that's out there. And for this price, I mean, can I learn how to do it? Yeah, but I mean, I can just also already have the conduit in it ready to, with a pull string, ready to hook onto this eye right here and just pull it through the conduit. All kinds of options when it comes to fiber and cabling. Yeah, the fiber store has fantastic prices, and they've got that armored cable. James says, I used to terminate fiber and even had a contest with a charter guy who had a machine to terminate fiber. All my connections worked and none of his passed. And then Scott says, James is the John Henry of fiber splicing. Them's fighting words. Shots fired. Interestingly enough, 3M makes like a kit, in-field fiber termination kit. So they make 3M's got some crazy kit where I don't think you have to do all of the, I don't think you have to do a lot of the stuff that comes along with fiber. Maybe it's like a crimp lock termination kit or something like that. I can't remember, but 3M supposedly has something that makes it faster and quicker in the field. But I'm looking at the kits right now, and they're still like $1,000 to get started. And I just don't know. I just don't know if that's something that I would want to invest in right now. Let's see. Reginald wants me to use the Microsoft calculator. Let's see here. I don't know if I drag this calculator over to this other screen. Uh-oh. Did I lock up the live stream? May have upset it. All right, let's see what happens now if I move back over. Okay, so we have the, so what were the prices? Like 280 plus, it was 230. 230 plus 480. $710. So the labor for somebody to come out and actually do that is going to cost you more than what that cable. Alonzo says, there are some fiber connectors that do not require slipping. Does that mean you mean splicing? All right, let's see. Have I ever worked with the Ubiquiti pre-terminated single mode fiber? Yes, I have. I actually have some of that around here somewhere. But it's just like the fiber store stuff. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if Ubiquiti just had the fiber store make those cables. It's probably where they come from because Ubiquiti's selling that cabling so inexpensively. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that's absolutely, where it came from. All right, so now comes the time in the stream where I'm going to put my phone number that is connected to this, and we're going to test this out with the new setup. Let me make sure my extension's on. Now, the phone line that you're going to be calling is not my normal SIP provider. It is Telnex, something like that. Anyway, it would have been Amazon Chime had I not had the credit card issue at 11 o'clock last night. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flash the number up here, phone number, and we are going to take some incoming calls and see how they sound. So there's the number to call in right now, 309-571-1304. Should get you directly to me. And we'll take first caller to come in. We'll see what happens. So if you're calling in, let me know. And I've got my headphones here. Got the phone in front of me. Over to the keypad. We tried this back in November. All right. All right, you are live with Willie. Who am I speaking with?
Hello, Willie. Ryan Ertel.
Hey, Ryan, man. I'm glad you called.
Yeah, no, this is sounding pretty good.
Awesome. Everybody should say hi to Ryan. Ryan is a customer and a friend of mine, and he does something. Well, he actually flies the planes. I just want to fly more, right? But Ryan's actually a pilot.
Yeah.
And getting into networking. So how you been, man? How were your holidays?
No, very good. It's currently on a trip down here in sunny Florida, so I'm taking advantage of the work time here, working on the tan line.
Right on. What's the weather like where you're at?
Low to, I'd call it low 80s, sunny. It's beautiful. Tough day at work.
Yeah, definitely. So we woke up to like an inch of snow this morning, and I think it was like 34 degrees. So, and it's still kind of cold outside. And after the live stream, my wife is going to drag me out to the chicken coop. I don't know if you and I talked about us having chickens last time we got together or not, but she'll drag me out there, and we're going to clean it out, and they started producing eggs. So that's what I'm looking forward to after this, in the freezing weather while Ryan's poolside at 80 degrees.
Well, it sounds like fun.
Yeah. How's your network performing since we made those changes?
Actually pretty well. The next big project I need to figure out is some type of a automated shutdown for any power failures when I'm out of town. So we had a power failure while I was away on the trip. Things, the battery pack lasted for about 30 minutes, but then obviously everything started shutting down. I need to get a cleaner solution for that.
Sure. Yeah, when you've got some time to look at it, let me know. If it's something that we can, write some scripts for, or something that we can plug a UPS in and install some software, we can definitely take a look at that.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you calling in, and let me know when you're back in town and you want to get together.
All right. Very good.
All right.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Bye.
So that's Ryan calling from Florida, where it is currently 80 degrees. Was everybody able to hear Ryan? So let me know in the chat if you were able to hear Ryan. But I could definitely hear him, and it's I still getting used to kind of wearing the headphones and talking to people. So if anybody else wants to call in, we'll take a couple more calls, and then if anybody else has anything else they want to see me pop up on the screen and talk about, we can do that too. Yeah, Reginald, he may have been getting quieter towards the end. It's 80 degrees where he's at, and he's at the pool. So, if if I was where it was 80 degrees right now and at the pool, you may not be able to hear me because I may have a drink in my hand, and so I might be talking kind of soft. But yeah, Ryan's a good guy. He's we've known each other for a couple of years, and it's awesome that he's a pilot, and it's just everybody, you all amaze me. I just want to let you know that with your kindness, and it's just I'm glad that we've got this channel, and I'm glad we've got this little community we're building. And all right, so the number is up there. If anybody's got any questions, go ahead and call in, and I'll try to answer any other questions. I'll leave that number up there for a little bit. Lars says, do you run Linux or Windows? What are your thoughts about dual boot? So I used to dual boot back in the day. And it's so funny that you're having this conversation because I have traditionally run Ubuntu on my Linux desktops, but I am actually going to be converting my Ubuntu desktops over to Pop OS. So that's coming. I know there's a lot of videos out there on that. Is that something that you'd be interested in? Like my take of converting from Windows to Pop OS? Is that something you all would like to see? Let me know. So I'm getting kind of tired of Microsoft Office and some of the other issues that I'm having with a couple things. And so, I can run the applications that I need in Wine. I know that they're already compatible. And if I can't get them working in Wine, I'll get them working in Crossover Office, which is a really fancy, packaged, Wine, control panel basically. And, so I don't see any reason why I can't switch from Windows completely. We've got all the remote tools built in. So if there happens to be something that I need to run natively that I can just load it on a Windows workstation and have it sitting there to do that. Yeah. So, I don't know if that's something that you all are interested in, let me know, if you'd like to see that journey. I mean, it's not something that I definitely need to record or keep track of, but if people are interested, then I would definitely do that. All right. So and if I butcher your name, I am totally sorry about that. Mikas asks, what is the difference between the Unify USG 3P and the Pro? So the main difference is, well, actually there's actually a lot of differences. So the USG 3P is the same hardware underneath as an Edge Router Lite, and the USG Pro is the same hardware as the Edge Router Pro. So if you scroll back a while on my social media, you'll see where I actually opened a USG, and it's got the same flash drive in there that the Edge Router Lite has. So it has all of the same limitations, and probably a little bit more because that Unify layer is on top of Edge OS. Then on the Pro, they actually removed a couple of the ports. Oh, looks like we have another incoming call. Thank you for calling. Hello? Oh, we lost the caller. Whoever you were from the 314 area code, go ahead and give me a call back. That wasn't fast enough on the draw that time. All right, so let's back to the question about what's the difference between the USG 3P and the Pro. It'd also be the amount of packets per second that it can process because of the processor, and the amount of memory and things like that. So also the USG Pro has some SFP ports. That's what I was trying to think of. We've got SFP ports that are available, and the USG 3 does not have that. We also have, what else? The Pro is rack mountable, so obviously the form factor is different. So 314 area code, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's like St. Louis area, St. Louis, Missouri. So yeah, you can give me a buzz back. All right, so Scott F. says, Willie, have you seen the Pinebook Pro and my thoughts? I've seen advertisements for it. I have not actually dug into it, Scott, so I don't have any real thoughts or opinions on that at this time. Reginald said that he is thinking of switching to Parrot OS. So I have used Parrot OS, but I actually use Kali for a lot of my pen testing. But I do not, those security distros, I do not run those as my main desktop. I run other operating systems as my main desktop, and then use the security distributions when I need those. Peter, you're going to have to be a little bit more specific, please. You wanted to talk about router settings in general, not Ubiquiti or Unify. How many clients would you say I should switch to the USG Pro? So I think that a standard USG, the 3P, you can have a couple hundred clients behind it. And it's also going to depend on what you're doing internally with VLANs, because it's all router on a stick if you're Unify tip to stern. So it's going to depend on how big your networks are, what you're doing with them, and things like that. So it's not really just something that I can just say this amount of clients. So there's a whole lot of things in the setup that are dependent before I would tell you to switch to another gateway. Could be a shy guy. Let's see here. Let me pull up. Let me pull up the Ubiquiti website. And let me get this going here. All right. So we're over here on the Unify section of the Ubiquiti website. And we will go down to the routing and switching. And you'll see here is the gateway. So first of all, just looking at them, you can tell that they are different devices. And what is the, oh yeah, there's a console port on the front of this. This also has a console port. Real quick before we get too much further, someone in the chat says that they tagged me on Twitter regarding the home USG showing 1.6 exabytes. I think that is a terrible mistake. If you go back to the Reddit link, they did the math that talks about how long it would take to transfer that kind of data over a gigabit. Brad says that he really wishes that Ubiquiti would get the Unify controller and UNMS working together. I've seen a lot of both, and it really sucks that the two don't see each other in the topology. But you have to remember that Unify and Edge are two different use cases usually, or at least that's how it's being kind of billed. And in that case, you actually can use SNMP to monitor Unify devices and non-Edge devices in UNMS. So keep that in mind. And I think you can do ICMP checks as well. Now, you don't get all the information that you would be used to, but I kind of like it that they're separate platforms and to kind of keep the product separation. So, yeah, Reginald says, I'm using Unify APs and Edge switch and router, and that is a pretty common setup. All right, so let's open this and this. Let's see. Did they completely remove? So they completely removed the Unify USG XG. They completely removed it. All right, so here is the USG Pro, MSRP $344. You can buy it now. You can see on the front, it's got the console port, the USB, and it has multiple WANs and multiple LANs. It's got the SFP ports, can be rack mounted. Convenient VLAN support, yes. So let's talk about that. The way that Unify handles VLANs is a little bit differently than a lot of providers, where when we create VLANs, we don't automatically throw them on switch ports, and Unify does that. So by default, every time you create a different VLAN, it shows up as a tagged VLAN. If you do nothing else, every port's basically a trunk port. And James wanted to let us know that that was him calling because someone said that they got number unavailable trying to call, so he was just making sure that the phone was working. All right, so back to this. Let's see if we can pull up this data sheet. All right, so this is going to have a little bit more information for us on what the difference is. All right, so the USG Pro, when it's doing layer 3 forwarding, can do, when you're doing 64 byte packets, can do 2.4 million packets per second. The USG 3P can only do 1 million packets per second. If you're using packet size of 512 bytes or larger, this can do line rate at 4 gigabits. And the USG 3 can do 3 gigabits. This obviously doesn't have any fans. There's obviously going to be a difference in the power draw that they have, the physical size. Also, one thing that Ubiquiti is really good at is if you go to their website, they do have all of the product guides for everything out there, and it has all that information that we were just looking at. So you don't ever have to really wonder if there's a product that's out there that you can get to, then you're going to be able to pull that data sheet. And man, do you remember when they didn't have this many products, and now look at all the products they've got? It's crazy. It's a lot of products. All right. Back to the questions here. All right, phone number's still up, still taking calls. Alonzo says, did you receive a Flex HD AP? If so, what is your opinion? I have not yet received a Flex HD AP, so at this point, I have no opinion. Tyler says, I need to set up a mesh network. What are your thoughts on using a USG APAC Pro and UAPAC-M versus an Amplify HD setup? So I do use an Amplify HD setup here, but we're talking about only covering 2,700 square feet with only between 60 and 70 clients all the time. Occasionally when I start turning things on, it gets higher than that. But if you were with us earlier, Tyler, you'll know that I usually don't set up mesh as mesh. I guess that the exception to that rule, because there's always exceptions, right, would be the Amplify stuff, because it just works. When you plug it in, Amplify just works. It's good stuff. What do you use for site surveys? So for lighter site surveys, you can use NetSpot. We'll pull this up. If you're not doing this every day, and this is not really your bread and butter, NetSpot, if you're doing these occasionally, NetSpot's going to be a good tool. It's inexpensive. And what you do is you load actual floor maps, and then you walk around and you can see all these red dots are where the person would have marked that they were at. And so you can see it builds an actual real heat map. And so it's going to give you a much better idea of what you need to be doing with the wireless as far as access point placement and access point deployment, signal strength, channel usage, all that good stuff. And you can see that they have help articles here that tell you how to use NetSpot as a Wi-Fi interference analyzer. So there's actually hardware that you can buy as well to do this. But if you're looking to spend about $150 and you want to do a pretty decent job, and this is not what you're doing every day, NetSpot is an awesome piece of software. Highly, highly recommend it. Hope that helps. All right, so yeah, I think that NetSpot. Sorry about that. NetSpot. They've got several different editions. Let's go back to this. So they got several different editions of NetSpot. The home edition is $49, but it's only single user, personal user, only 2 zones, 2 snapshots, 50 data points per zone, 3 major visualizations. The Pro is a single user commercial license, 50 zones, 50 snapshots, 500 data points, 12 plus visualizations, 1 free technician license. Then you can step up to the Enterprise, which is 10 users, unlimited zones, unlimited data points, 12 plus visualizations, 10 technician license. You can also download a free version, which I think you can also get a 14-day trial. So just so you know, when I switch to this view right here where we're viewing the screen, I do not have the phone number and all that up here. Phone number and sponsor stuff is only on here. And so phone number is back. All right, Lucy Cannon says, I'm running an EdgeRX, a couple of Zycel switches, and Unify Wi-Fi and AirMax Wi-Fi bridges in a home environment. If I told you about my home environment, you may not... no, you probably would believe me, the way that it is. But I have a ton of equipment because I'm always testing stuff, right? So, not many people have air fiber, laying in their backyard. But let's see here. Alonzo says, I'm running a fiber store router and switch and Unify switches and AP thanks to Willie's assistance. Yes, so Alonzo is also here with us. And the other night was the first chance that I got to actually work on a fiber store router. And the fiber store router itself is a little different. And once Alonzo was able to explain to me how the technicians at the fiber store showed him that you have to handle VLANs, then we were able to very quickly translate what fiber store, what the firmware and how everything's programmed, which by the way, Alonzo, if you want to trade that fiber store switch, let's talk about that. Shoot me an email. But the fiber store switch, under the hood on the command line is almost dead nuts on to Cisco. So I don't know how a lot of people get away with that, but they're not the only piece of equipment where I've seen very super similar commands. But yeah, Alonzo and I were able to very quickly remedy his issues that he was having with the Unify switches once he was able to explain to me the fiber store router, which I think it's good stuff, Alonzo. Every manufacturer's got their way of doing things. All right. Do you have air fiber laying in your backyard? So, all right. So maybe I embellished a little bit on laying in my backyard, but I do have right over here. I have the air fiber 23 dBi slant antennas, and then I have the Air Fiber 5X. I have a complete set right here behind me for testing and configuration. So if you call me for assistance, more than likely if I don't have the equipment and I don't have remote access to it at your facility, but I need to do some sort of a scalable build out, I will invest in that hardware and have it here because we can never stop learning in this industry. If you stop learning, you may as well just hang it up. And you know what? Here, I'll actually show you the air fiber. Trying not to rip microphones and stuff off here real quick. Just so you thought I wasn't joshing with you. There it is right there, Air Fiber 5X. So a couple of these bad boys along with the antennas. So while it's not laying in my backyard, it is in my office/lab. Let's see here. Peter asks, have you ever encountered any interference issues from whole house cellular boosters, Wi-Fi, mesh, Z-Wave, or otherwise? Peter, I can't say that I have. As far as the whole house cellular boosters, I can't say that I have. So yeah, Scott. So yeah, IT, we're always learning. We're always learning. We're always collaborating. Or we should be collaborating, and it's nonstop. And a lot of people don't understand that IT is not a magic wand. You see those memes out there. Like what my mom thinks I do, what my coworkers think I do, what I actually do. But like people really don't understand how many layers there are to IT. And IT is so big. It's so big. Luke says, are there any recent good, easy guides on getting an SSL cert installed on my Cloud Key Unify controller? Luke, if you go back, my video is still relevant on how to do that. Dbot, man, that username Dbot67 is pretty close to somebody that I think I might know. Maybe not. If it's you, let me know. But ask, what is your preferred remote access software? TeamViewer, AnyDesk, something that can be used for unattended access, as well as on-demand support. So I'm actually using two pieces of software right now. One of them actually by accident. I am using Zoho Assist for most of my stuff. I get for the package that I pay for, I get 25 unattended installations, and then I get unlimited remote support sessions, but I really like it because of the in-depth reporting that it has. Then I am also using Zoom, and I didn't know until a few months ago that I could actually do a remote session with Zoom, but I pay for Zoom because I do conferences and the training and things that we're really going to start hitting hard in 2020. I'm going to use Zoom for that, but I've been using Zoom, and so between the two of those, they meet all of my needs. Let's see here. All right, so if no one else is going to call in, I'll go ahead and take the phone number off of the screen there. Nobody's calling in. But if you've got any more... Oh, so D-Bot, you're Dave from Ontario. Dave. Well, I think I know a Dave from Ontario, but maybe you're not the Dave that I know. So anyway, unless anybody's got any questions, I think I'm going to go ahead and I am going to start wrapping this up. Like I said, we got to get chicken coops cleaned and got a few other things that I got to check in on, try to relax. And if you follow me on social media, you'll see that my wife, she got me a bottle of Gentleman Jack for Christmas, had my logo put on it. Super awesome. So I think I'm going to have some of that tonight. But if there's no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping it up. As always, I want to thank you for being here. If you've got questions, comments, whatever, go to williehowe.com, fill out that contact form. Someone will get in touch with you. The affiliate links are down below. Don't feel pressured to use those. I want to thank everybody for being here. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.